What if I told you that something as ordinary as what you put on your plate could quietly be reshaping the most vital force in your body? Imagine sitting down to a healthy-looking meal, confident you are doing everything right, unaware that one of those seemingly harmless choices may be slowly sapping away the very hormone that defines strength, vitality, confidence, and resilience in men. For men over 50, testosterone is more than just a number in a blood test. It is the engine that supports energy, protects muscle, sharpens memory, stabilizes mood, and even preserves cardiovascular health. Yet every day, millions make dietary choices without realizing that certain foods, especially certain vegetables, can disrupt hormone balance and accelerate the natural decline in testosterone. It is not about fear, but about awareness, because the reality is that your body after 50 is not the same body you had at 20 or 30. And what you once tolerated without consequence may now be a silent drag on your health. To understand why diet can play such a dramatic role, one must first recognize how testosterone functions. Testosterone is not only about reproductive capacity or physical performance, it is a master regulator, affecting bone density, red blood cell production, cognitive clarity, and even emotional stability. Levels naturally fall with age, but the steepness of that decline varies widely between men. Some experience a sharp drop accompanied by fatigue, weakness, and loss of drive, while others maintain relatively high levels well into later decades. Lifestyle choices often explain the difference. Sleep, exercise, stress, body weight, and nutrition all interact with hormonal balance. And among these, nutrition is uniquely powerful because it is a choice repeated 3 times a day for decades. The cumulative effect can either strengthen or undermine the hormonal foundation of health. So why focus on vegetables? After all, vegetables are praised universally for their vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and fiber. No one disputes their value in preventing cancer, supporting digestion, and reducing inflammation. However, not all vegetables are equal in their hormonal impact. Some contain phytoestrogens, compounds that mimic estrogen in the body. Others interfere with mineral absorption critical for testosterone production, such as zinc and magnesium. Some can even burden the liver or endocrine system in ways that shift the delicate balance between testosterone and estrogen. The message is not to fear vegetables, but to discriminate wisely, because moderation and knowledge are the difference between nourishment and sabotage. One category of vegetables that often raises red flags is soy-based vegetables and legumes, such as soybeans and edamame. These contain isoflavones, a type of phytoestrogen that can bind to estrogen receptors in the body. While phytoestrogens are weaker than human estrogen, high consumption can tilt the hormonal environment toward imbalance, especially in men already vulnerable to low testosterone due to age. Some studies show minimal effects, while others reveal measurable reductions in free testosterone when soy is consumed in large quantities. The problem is not the occasional bowl of edamame or splash of soy sauce, but the cumulative exposure in a diet where soy creeps into snacks, protein powders, sauces, and processed foods. For men over 50, when every percentage point of hormonal balance matters, chronic exposure to high levels of phytoestrogens is a risk not worth taking lightly. Another vegetable often overlooked is mint, particularly spearmint and peppermint. Mint is refreshing, soothing, and commonly used in teas, desserts, and even digestive remedies. Yet studies suggest spearmint tea can reduce testosterone levels by lowering free testosterone and raising luteinizing hormone. While this effect is sometimes used therapeutically for women with hormonal imbalances, it is not beneficial for men seeking to preserve vitality. The subtlety of mint's impact is deceptive. A single cup of tea is not catastrophic, but habitual consumption over months or years may blunt testosterone just enough to accelerate fatigue, weight gain, or mood changes in older men. What begins as a calming evening ritual can gradually erode the biological fire that men need to thrive past midlife. Licorice root, although not a green vegetable in the classic sense, is another plant-derived food with a surprising hormonal impact. Licorice contains glycyrrhizin, a compound known to reduce circulating testosterone significantly. Research has documented reductions of up to 30% in some men after consistent intake of licorice root. While often consumed in candies, teas, or herbal remedies, its effect on testosterone is potent enough to warrant caution. For a younger man with robust hormonal reserves, the damage may be reversible, but for a man over 50, whose baseline levels are already declining. Such an additional burden could mean the difference between maintaining vitality and slipping into deficiency. Now you might ask, is the danger of these vegetables absolute? The truth is more nuanced. Dose, frequency, and context all matter. For example, a small amount of soy in a diet rich with zinc, omega-3 fats, and sufficient protein may not be catastrophic. But in a diet already heavy in processed foods and low in micronutrients, the phytoestrogen load may tip the balance. Similarly, a mint tea consumed occasionally as a digestive aid may be harmless, but multiple cups daily over years create a different story. Licorice root, with its sharper effect, deserves more direct avoidance, especially for men with borderline low testosterone or related symptoms. The point is not hysteria, but precision. Men over 50 must become strategic eaters, using food as medicine rather than stumbling into hidden pitfalls. The broader dietary picture reveals why these three vegetables are singled out. Testosterone production depends on cholesterol as a building block, zinc and magnesium as cofactors, vitamin D for regulation, and balanced fats for hormonal signaling. Diets deficient in these components impair the testes' ability to produce testosterone, and the brain's ability to regulate secretion. At the same time, diets heavy in refined carbohydrates, processed oils, and estrogen-mimicking compounds add insult to injury. It becomes a double blow: diminished production coupled with increased suppression. Over years, the trajectory is predictably accelerated decline, reduced vitality, and greater susceptibility to metabolic disease. For the man over 50, what does this mean in practical terms? It means every shopping trip and every meal matters. When choosing vegetables, one must lean toward those that support testosterone rather than undermine it. Cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, and Brussels sprouts, for example, contain indole-3-carbinol, a compound that helps regulate estrogen metabolism. These vegetables can actually reduce excess estrogen and improve the testosterone-estrogen ratio. Dark leafy greens, like spinach and kale, supply magnesium, a mineral directly linked to healthy testosterone levels. Even onions and garlic have shown supportive roles by improving blood circulation and antioxidant defense. In short, while 3 vegetables deserve caution, dozens more deserve embrace. Still, why is this subject especially urgent for senior men? Because the cost of hormonal imbalance increases with age. Low testosterone is not only about energy or libido. It accelerates sarcopenia, the age-related loss of muscle mass. It increases the risk of osteoporosis, leaving bones fragile and prone to fracture. It impairs glucose metabolism, contributing to diabetes risk. It heightens visceral fat storage, fueling inflammation and cardiovascular disease. The downward spiral can be swift, and once advanced, it is difficult to reverse. Preventing decline is far easier than repairing damage, and dietary vigilance is one of the most accessible tools available. Consider also the psychological consequences. Testosterone supports confidence, motivation, and resilience. When levels fall, men often describe a subtle erosion of drive, a creeping apathy that undermines their quality of life. Depression becomes more common, sleep disturbances worsen, and relationships may suffer. It is not vanity to protect testosterone. It is self-preservation of one's vitality and dignity. If avoiding certain vegetables can tilt the balance even slightly in favor of health, then the choice is not trivial, it is rational. Skeptics might argue that the evidence is not absolute, that many studies are conflicting, and that no one food determines destiny. This is true, and it highlights an essential principle: food choices are about probability and cumulative effect. A single cigarette does not cause cancer, but years of smoking do. Similarly, one serving of soy, mint, or licorice root does not destroy testosterone, but habitual consumption can create a hormonal environment less favorable for men in later life. When combined with other modern stressors, sleep deprivation, sedentary habits, chronic stress, the damage compounds. Avoidance, therefore, is not about obsession, but about reducing unnecessary risk in a world already stacked against hormonal health. Let us also remember the power of substitution. Avoiding soy protein shakes does not mean abandoning protein supplementation. Whey pea or rice proteins exist without the same hormonal concerns. Reducing mint tea does not mean giving up soothing rituals. chamomile, or ginger offer calming alternatives without the hormonal baggage. Steering clear of licorice does not mean rejecting herbal remedies altogether. Countless botanicals support digestion and vitality without disrupting testosterone. The goal is not restriction, but intelligent replacement, ensuring men can still enjoy variety while safeguarding their hormonal foundation. Furthermore, one must situate diet within the larger framework of lifestyle. Exercise, particularly resistance training, is a powerful natural stimulator of testosterone. Adequate sleep, at least 7 to 8 hours nightly, is essential for hormonal recovery. Stress management through meditation, breathing exercises, or relaxation techniques prevents chronic cortisol elevations, which otherwise suppress testosterone. Body composition plays a central role as well, since excess fat tissue increases aromatase activity, converting testosterone into estrogen. Thus, avoiding certain vegetables is not a magic bullet, but a single brick in the larger wall of defense. The science of nutrition will always evolve. New studies will refine our understanding of phytoestrogens, herbal compounds, and their interplay with human physiology. But prudence requires acting on the best evidence available today, not waiting decades for perfect certainty while one's health declines. Men over 50 do not have the luxury of decades of indecision. They must act now, preserving every ounce of vitality possible, because once testosterone falls too low, the recovery is often incomplete, even with medical intervention. Prevention, therefore, is priceless. When you step back and consider the arc of a man's life, testosterone is the silent partner in every triumph and every challenge. It fuels the ambition of youth, the endurance of middle age, and, if protected, the vitality of senior years. To guard it is to guard not only health, but identity. By making conscious choices avoiding the silent saboteurs like soy in excess, mint in routine, and licorice in disguise, men can extend their strength, clarity, and resilience well into later life. The fork in the road is literal. What you place at the end of your fork shapes the trajectory of your life. So the question is not whether you enjoy these foods, but whether the fleeting pleasure is worth the cost of diminished vitality. For a man in his 20s, perhaps the margin for error is wide, but for the man over 50, every decision is magnified, every choice counts. Let food be your ally, not your enemy. Let wisdom guide indulgence, and let awareness transform your plate into a tool of empowerment. When you know what silently undermines you, you gain the power to act, to preserve, and to thrive. And in that choice lies the promise of extending not just years to your life, but life to your years.